Hello, everybody, and welcome to the God is a Geek podcast. My name's Adam Cook. It's episode 440, the 440th of the podcasts, and I am joined by Sir Christopher White. Hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Well, I thought I'd give you the Sir thing because of the
I
D&D
like
action. You know, the D&D action in the background.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
And let's go with this, right? Let's go with this, okay? And this week joining us is the pauper, the one who Chris is up in his tower. Chris is up in his tower there, and then right down at the bottom is not rich at all, really poor, pauper Chris Hyde. Hello, Chris. All right.
Hello, mate. How are you?
All right, mate.
I'm liking the rebranding. Yeah, I like it.
The shave, the hair. You just need
I just look like a hobo, so I think it's. I think it's probably
didn't
right.
Say that.
No, but you didn't need to. I think everyone can see that it's the truth, so I think we're good.
Well, on that note, how is everybody? Is everybody
lost for words?
Is he lost for words?
Yeah, I'm lost.
If only there was a game of something but just there isn't, so we can't.
No.
What have you played, Chris White? Now, Chris Hyde. What have you been up to, mate? Let's get stuck into some
games.
Stuck into
some games. So
hit the microphone.
That's it. Keep it going. So I've been playing Lost Words Beyond the Page, which is Mick's reviewed it on the site, but he's not here today. So Lost Words Beyond the Page. It's written by Rhianna Pratchett, daughter of Terry Pratchett, one of my favourite authors ever. So was really interested to kind of get into this game. It's kind of launched with very little fanfare. I didn't really know it had come out until it had.
So I understand that it was originally on Stadia as an exclusive, apparently. And that sort of rings like a distant bell. Like I remember, I actually think we were offered to review this on Stadia, and it's just a case of, like, Mick couldn't. His internet can't cope with it. Chris and I weren't available, and I think your internet, you weren't sure either. I've just got a funny feeling we actually turned down a review code for this one. Then when it hit all the other platforms as well, of course, we could get involved. So yeah, I think.
Okay, cool. So I mean, what I will say is everyone else should definitely get involved in this game. It's lovely. It's a game almost of two stories, and I'll try and set it out. Adam, obviously, I know you did a kind of sneak peek video on YouTube, which I think everyone should maybe go and have a look at after this. Stay and watch this podcast live, but then after that, go and have a look, because that really kind of shows, I guess, the two elements of the gameplay that this game's got. It's kind of split into two parts. So the first part is you are this young girl who writes a journal. And she basically writes in her journal, and you control a little character that kind of jumps around the page as she's writing, and you jump on certain words, and it progresses her kind of ramblings in her journal. It's quite basic gameplay, but it's quite lovely to do. The controls of movements quite tight, and it's fairly straightforward, but it's fairly basic. But what it's doing is setting up that actually this girl called Izzy is actually a budding writer herself. So she actually wants to write a story, a fantasy story, that then the story that she ends up writing becomes the other part of the game. So you end up controlling the protagonist in that game as she goes on a separate journey. So what you end up doing is, I guess, between each chapter is fleeting between going back to kind of jumping around a journal page, which actually goes into the story of kind of Izzy's own life and what's going on in her life and what she's experiencing, and then also how she's progressing a story as she creates an arc for her characters and how that progresses. And it's really there's a few things to say straight off the bat, and Mick did call it out in the review, and I think it's worth people knowing this. This is not a challenging video game.
No,
this is not a difficult. It's a platforming game. It's a 2D platformer. Both sides of the game are. It's not difficult. So people looking for a challenging adventure are not going to find it here. But that's not really what the point of it is. This is more about, I guess, two stories. I would say incredibly well told, and I think the voice acting in particular is of a very high quality. The main meat and potatoes is the main, I guess, game, which is the story that Izzy is writing herself, and in that you control a character, which there's a few customization options. I know you showed it in your video. You can name the character, choose the color of their dress, and there's other choices you make further down the line which have a slight impact. They don't impact the whole story, but they impact certain kind of specific, non-essential parts to the story, almost cosmetic parts. And you basically control the game. You have this spell book, and you basically have spells that can interact with the environment. So you might have a rise spell which can lift things. You have a break spell which smashes things apart, and you have a repair spell which repairs them. And you get new spells as you go along the way, and they help you overcome the platforming obstacles that you have. It's fairly basic in that sense, but some of it's quite, some of the execution's quite clever, but you're never really stumped, I would say. And that's, I guess, what I'm saying about the difficulty. But the thing why I really like this, I guess, the two stories, is that I didn't expect to enjoy the non-game part of the story too much. The bit where Izzy's writing in her journal, as much as I did. So as it starts off, it's just Izzy introducing herself and her family, and it's quite cute, and it sets the scene lovely for then going into the game proper. But then, like I say, at the beginning of, I guess, each new chapter, you go back to, she goes back to her journal and starts writing about things, and it does. I don't want to spoil any of it here, and Mick didn't in his review either. And there's reasons for that, but it does cover some quite hard hitting things to do with kind of with family and emotions for quite a young girl. And I guess there's a couple of things there. The voice acting, like I said, is very, very well done, and that makes the emotions that she goes through, very believable, because they're quite sad. They're quite hard hitting in places, and that's why I really kind of find myself falling in love with it. It's kind of quite macabre to fall in love with quite a sad story, but it's very well done. And there are definitely moments in that story that I can relate to, not just because I've got a daughter, but also because there's things that have happened in my life which I can relate to, in terms of some of the sadness and events that it touches on. And I always think, when a game does that, where you can resonate your own experiences, that it's dealt with it in a sensitive way and within a way that's believable. And the game that it reminded me the most of, I haven't quite finished it, I will just say that. It's only about 5 hours long, and I'm probably, like I said, probably about 2/3 of the way through, I think, based on what I've seen. So I can't talk about the resolution of the story, but certainly the beats that I've seen so far have been very well dealt with. But the game that it reminds me of so far when I'm playing is Florence, in the sense that obviously Florence was a game that dealt with some emotive subjects, but gamified them a little bit in a way that sorry, I'll just pause while Chris does his weekly drink.
It was I actually heard that. Yeah. I've never noticed that before. I couldn't.
The mic's particularly close to
it. I've never noticed that before, and I was like, oh.
Let's get into some really hard hitting.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to eat this pork pie that's off screen.
AMSR.
Yeah. So the game it reminded me of, I think, the most, because it is quite a unique game. So there aren't many games like it, but the one that it did draw my mind to was Florence, in the sense that obviously that game is quite a short game. It's more about the story and the emotions, but also some of the ways it makes you, I guess, control some of in Florence. You obviously do certain things. You like piece like jigsaw puzzles together and things to kind of metaphorically resemble like relationships and things like that. I seem to remember. So
yes.
There's bits of that when you're going through the journal scenes where again you're kind of you'll do things to kind of make images appear, or words will fall from the page when they're kind of devastating and things like that. And there's just things like that just kind of nod to, it's not just words on a page and someone narrating them and then you move on to the next part of the story. There's been a lot of thought, I think, into the delivery of it and how how the words are making you feel in that moment, and that shows on the screen. I just thought it was really clever. So what I would say is if a story well told is up your street rather than a challenging platformer, because I think it's not a challenging platformer. It's interesting because normally in that sense you'd recommend it for play it with a young child, but I think the nature of the story makes you. I don't really know if I want my young child. It might make them upset because it does deal with some tough storylines. But it's a very well told story. Voice actor's really good. It's very pretty as well. Both in the journal side takes obviously pen and paper style, but then uses nice watercolor effects and things like that. And then the main kind of story gameplay part, I guess, when you're in the world that's created by Izzy, is slightly more kind of cartoony, cel shady ish than that, but it's still gorgeous to look at in its detail. So I am loving it in terms of it's a nice change of pace. I'm not getting stressed about the puzzles. I'm just enjoying the journey. And I think that both stories are very well told and executed. So I agree wholeheartedly with Mick's review that's on the site, and I think everyone, it doesn't take too long. Go and play it. It's really a really good story.
You were so close to linking into another game that when you said it doesn't take too.
Sorry, it doesn't take too long.
And it was it was there.
Sorry,
it was
sorry.
there.
And I knew as well.
Absolutely,
I knew because I'm
pissed on it.
Sorry, I'm rubbish at this. I need to get better at segues.
No, you're certainly not. By the way, hello to anyone who is watching live. I can see that Deadbeat Punk and Thomas K are in the chat there. For those listening back later at a later point, this is also done live on YouTube, so youtube.com/GodIsAGeek. And before I forget, we're giving away a Nintendo Switch. So if you haven't got a Switch and you live in the UK, sorry, customs, etc., we're giving away a Switch with a copy of Relicta, which is just out actually on Switch at the time we're doing this live. It was on PC, it's now on Switch. But we've also got 5 runners-up copy. And look, I'm not going to say you should enter if you're not in the UK, but hey, if you've got a way of redeeming a UK code on a Switch that you already own, I'm not judging you, and I'm sure the two Chris's won't either. Before we do move on, Thomas K in the chat says, I see in the background that someone got a physical edition of Evil Genius 2. 2 things to mention there. One, great eyes, because if you're watching live, it's kind of there. And that's terrific eyesight because, and on top of the 2 things, 1, I forgot I had it. And 2, I forgot to tell Chris that this arrived in the post. So just fill some dead air for me so this podcast isn't silent. So if you could just talk about the weather,
Well, I could show off I'll show off my little thing whilst we're
here. It's fine. I mean, it's only here, so carry on.
Well, I'm going to do it now.
Okay. Yeah, you've built it up now.
This is a video exclusive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh,
there you go.
Spooky. Yeah, there you go. Time filled. Time filled.
So okay.
Time filled. So this was sent in the post. I'll go to up this.
A pen?
Yeah.
But is it a pen, Chris?
Oh.
Is it like a James Bond gadget?
Yes. I don't own Evil Genius, but we do get sent stuff from time to time, and that there, I think, is the statue that comes with the game. If you do, this came actually before that, along with.
Has it got a freeze ray in it? Or a
If it
death
did,
ray?
mate, if it did, I wouldn't be on this podcast. It came with like the press pack. I don't like to do this too much on the pod because it's video based, but there's stuff in. Yeah, there's. I should just probably full screen myself. There's stuff in here. Not doing a live unboxing. It came with that and a cable. Why would you have a cable for a pen? Now, I haven't actually set this up yet. This is a spy pen. It's got a camera in it. So, apparently, I haven't tested it yet. There's a micro USB, and I'm not going to get it out on camera, but there's a micro USB in here. And when if you're... I don't even know where the camera is, actually. It's probably been... Oh, yes, you won't be able to see this, I think. But the camera is there.
Oh, just above that. Yeah.
Like the people on the stream will be able to see it. It's just there with my dirty fingernails. Sorry about that. And you click the button, and I think it's like if you click it once, it starts filming, but you can like double click and it will start recording audio and stuff. I didn't know that sort of stuff genuinely existed.
That sort of stuff, if that fell into the wrong hands, mate, you're all sorts of issues. Like, if people... Dodgy.
I've not used it. I sort of. It seems cool, but it also seems kind of a faff. I don't know but just for the people in the live chat who were asking, Christopher White.
Does it record sound as well?
Yeah. No, it's you can do both.
You could go undercover. You're a bit like Donnie Brasco with that pen. Only Donnie Brasco had that pen in 1992 or whenever it was.
Mate, the only Donnie I'm like at the moment is Donnie Darko. So, like,
yeah.
Chris Hyde, back to video games that we've actually played, perchance.
Video game, indeed. So, I had the immense pleasure of finish. Well, yeah, just to lay my cards on the table straight away.
No, it's not that. It's just you gave me the podcast title there with immense pleasure.
immense pleasure.
Thank you. I wasn't expecting it quite this early. That's
my nickname. I had the immense pleasure of continuing and finishing my It Takes Two journey with you, Mr. Cook.
Yep.
And I know we've obviously spoken a lot about It Takes Two on this podcast, and I know that you two adore it, and then Adam Cower did too. I guess really quickly, I wholeheartedly agree with everything you guys have said.
And as you said wholeheartedly, the underpants with hearts on came on the screen as if there's some kind of amazing producer controlling all of this, Chris.
There we go. It's almost like we planned this.
Who is it?
So,
I love you, really.
I don't love me, but go on.
You guys can carry on this conversation if you like.
Sorry, no, please.
Okay, so It Takes Two. So we talked a lot before about kind of the tight design in this game, the amount of incredible different ideas that it has, some of which it just uses for like 5 seconds or a couple of minutes and then just goes, nope, you had fun there. Well, we've got another idea coming in a couple of minutes, so don't fret. I think the bit that I was most impressed by, and you did touch on this, Adam, I think a couple of podcasts ago when we were talking about the levels, and obviously I'd only done the first few levels, and you were like, I'm not convinced they're my favourites. I think I prefer that the ones coming later. And I was like, yeah, all right. And then I've played the later levels, and I'm like, I'm just blown away by some of the clever ideas, the execution, but also I found when I was, at the very end of the story, when it almost kind of pans back to the areas you've been at the end of the game. And I was like, oh, yeah. And just reminding myself of all the different areas we explored and all the different things that we did. And it's really hard to put. I've been thinking since we played it at the beginning of the week what to say about it. And I think I that hasn't already been said, I think, because I could go over the same old ground. And I'm convinced it's the best platformer I've played since Mario Odyssey. And easily. And I also think in many respects it out Odyssey's Odyssey. Because in some respects, and let me explain what I mean by that, in some of its ideas and some of the mechanics that it introduces. I think with Mario Odyssey, it introduces a single mechanic and it does it for that bit, but that mechanic kind of does one thing. Whereas in It Takes Two, what I was most impressed with was that you have a mechanic and that mechanic is split in half because it's with two people. So that's the other impressive thing. It's not one mechanic, it's a split mechanic. And then they will do multiple things with that mechanic throughout the level. It's not just repeating the same thing for 20 minutes. Whereas I guess the argument could be in Mario Odyssey, yes, there's loads of mechanics, but it is the same thing for however long. And I found myself, and I even said it to you out loud when we were playing, I can't wait to see what the new idea of this mechanic is coming in 5 minutes time. Like what they, because I can only think of this thing that they're doing now. And then they throw 3 more things out at you that are using the same mechanics. And it's in that sense, I think it's so clever how they've thought of these central combined kind of gameplay elements that can manipulate the environment and everything else in different ways. And then the boss fights as well use the same, I guess skills, but in different ways to overcome the bosses. And it's in that way, I do think it's better than Odyssey because Odyssey does a bit of that, but It Takes Two does it consistently. And I think the level of design on that, you can't over exaggerate how clever that is, because you're not just designing one element, you're designing two to work interlinked in multiple different ways. And I just found that incredible, that I kept getting surprised and kept getting amazed by it. That on top of all the stuff that doesn't need to be in that game that is in that game, just because the amount of different ways we can kill each other, the different ways you can just go, oh, just stand in there and I'll just kill you, or just step on that switch and it lights up a thing just because, like someone's made the effort to do it, just to make you smile for a couple of seconds, and then you move on. And then the mini games
do that sort of stuff. Like Chris, I know you were playing through it with your daughter. You said, I've now got the achievement on Xbox for finding every mini game.
Yeah,
there was another one we missed, and it was like, you know what I mean? Like how? Oh man, because I don't know, man. Like it's I sort of making the sort of ooh noises when you say about like Odyssey, but
no,
he's got a damn like there's a couple of things, man, that I find a little bit strange about this game. Like I find like a lot of the criticisms are like it's too long, and like I've now played it 3 times. Okay, and I mean that. I have played it 3 times to completion with 3 different people, and it's been a completely different experience every single time. I've played both sides of the campaign now all the way through. Chris White and I played the intro of it twice, so I've played that. I'd actually played that through, twice before I even played it with anybody else. I am just still like I wouldn't even know where to begin sometimes. Like I think to myself, there's certain parts of that game that will be talked about at the end of the year. The game itself is definitely just the love from the pod crew itself that do the Game of the Year stuff. But like even with you, Chris Hyde, when we're finishing it, it's like, holy shit, do you remember that bit? And it's like, my God, how did I not think of that bit? That bit's the bit. And then you're like, but actually that bit was... I
was going to say to you, like, and I'm not going to spoil this at all. No,
don't spoil that
bit.
But
like the bit that we found, and I know that you didn't find it with other people, but I don't know if you did since, but the bit that we found in the space level that does not need to be there, and it's linked to an achievement, and it actually made us smile and laugh.
Yeah, like...
And I'm just like, it doesn't need to be there, and it's so funny, and and actually... and that's just one of our examples of, oh my God, we found that and we didn't find that in other. You've probably got loads of others with other people.
The amount of incidental stuff they've done that I don't think you would find first time. Like I think I've now probably seen. I'm not convinced after 3 playthroughs. I've definitely seen everything. I'm not convinced, but that every single time I played it, somebody or me found something new that was like, wow. And it's like, so I've played this 12 to 14 hour game 3 times and I'm still finding new and interesting sort of components of it. And to me, that is quite remarkable. Like, and as I said to you when we were playing it, Chris Hyde, like, it's quite remarkable in terms of they've made a water level that's also good.
And this is the thing. Like, well, there's a couple of things I want to say, but that is a really interesting point. You can tell that this has been a game that has been designed by people that have a love for games and enjoy playing them and know the things that piss people off about games and know the things that people love about games. And water levels generally annoy people about games because the movement is frustrating and unwieldy, and the movement in that game underwater is the exact opposite of that. The amount of times the game just goes, I'm not going to make you walk back through all of that. I'm not going to make you go back. I'm just going to take you back because I'm not going to waste your time. It does that in a few examples. Other times it comes up with a really fun way to get back to where you were, to throw another element at you that it's going to take away in 2 minutes, but you have a good time while you're doing it. You're not just retracing your steps because that's not fun. And I think that gets, when you do it so often, when you're obviously playing that game for 14 hours or whatever, 12 hours, whatever, you can forget that. And you're like, no, actually, it's really valued my time. It's not taking the mick. It understands what I'm going to enjoy. And as a result, you end up enjoying yourself consistently. There's not, it's like you say, there almost aren't peaks because there's never troughs, right?
It's a permanent peak.
It's like, one of those.
Do you remember, sorry, Chris, to cut across you there, but Joseph Fares literally said, I never saw this live, but it was brought up in the press presentation that Chris and I went to, where we chatted to Joseph, and someone asked him, "How do you wish you didn't say this stuff?" Like, he said, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, but he basically said, "If you don't like this game or don't think that it's consistently fun, I'll give you," and it was something like $200 or something. I'm in our chat here. I'm literally, Thomas K says It Takes Two is getting purchased because of your podcast review a week or two ago, and like I have no investment in the game other than I loved it. I'm not far off being that now, where I would say to someone like, fine, and this isn't. I'm not going to do this because people will you know what it's like. People will be funny about it, but
yeah,
I get where he's coming from, because I'm almost of the opinion now where I would recommend it to anyone who loves platform games, and if they didn't like it, I'd almost be like, look, I think you do like platform games. I do. Right. Buy this, play it with a mate, or your wife, or whoever. Doesn't matter. If you don't like it, I'll pay for it. Because it's 20 quid for a start. But it genuinely feels like I just don't see how... Like, this. I'm not going to go over it again, but the story stuff is the story stuff. It is a story. Like,
can I say something about that?
Yes,
though?
by all means. Yeah.
Just because I agree with everything that we've said around. I think people have just... The story thing, whatever, we could criticize Mario for that and all that sort of stuff. But I will say the thing that I really like in this game with regards to the story is the writing in terms of not the overall arc of the story, because I think everyone could see where it was, where it goes, and there's not a plot.
Film.
Exactly. There's not a plot twist halfway through. You're like, oh crikey, didn't see that coming.
The daughter's a robot.
Yeah, exactly. It's all a dream.
It's a Pixar film.
Yes, exactly, and you could but like a Pixar film, the writing within that story, and the exchanges between Cody and May throughout that story are incredibly believable for the situation they're in. And you're often, me and you are definitely, and I'm sure you were with Chris and Adam, laughing at some of the little tit for tat little snipes that they're making against each other.
When Cody goes through a particular hole and goes,
yeah,
it's like, and that's not me being sexist. Like, I do that to my wife. She does it to me, probably, all the time. She's probably in there now going, "Oh, do you know what your dad said?" Like, because it's a silly thing to do. Like, it's just. It's cutesy, isn't it? It's a big.
It's incredibly relatable.
Exactly. And that's why. Yeah,
like,
sorry, you go.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, like, me and my wife love each other to bits. There's no argument there, but there is no way.
I thought this is going to get very dark.
No.
Carry on.
I'm not announcing that we're. No.
Me and my wife are on the way out, and
no, like the kind of the most stable or loving relationships cannot survive without getting annoyed with them.
Oh man, you live with someone, you will have an
argument. Whether it's a little thing or a big thing, my wife pisses me off, and I piss her off. But and that's kind of why there is relatable moments in it. It's even though they are going through a divorce, the back and forth, like you say, it's like
someone who's got a history. They've got history.
Absolutely,
they literally have history.
And I think, and just sorry, but just like the story is to me, it's more told through their dialogue than anything else, and that's what it does so well. And it is like Pixar films. It is when like they start off, hating each other, and then that changes, and it's through those interactions where the story gets told. And people have focused too much on the overarching story than the actual dialogue between Cody and May.
I'm not convinced the people complaining about it have played it. I'm not convinced. I think this might be a bit of a Last of Us 2 thing, where the people who have played maybe the first hour are complaining about it being a negative thing, and I don't think they've actually seen it through, because I think, as you say, the relatability of the dialogue. I don't know. I mean, we've spent a lot of time talking about this game over the weeks, and I suspect there will be yet more to come on it. I'm not cutting anybody off for speaking about it, of course. I could just talk about the game all the time. I still haven't played a better game this year. I mean, I'm a massive Resident Evil fan. That is, if that's good, which it's probably going to be, but if it's like top-notch good, like if it takes what they did with 7 for me, but keeps, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, but the first half, or maybe even first 2/3 of that game are magnificent, 10 out of 10, and then it drops off a cliff at the end. I think if they can make Village more of the start of that game, even if it's 20 plus hours, that could be a contender. I mean, talk about two different games, but
yeah,
I just,
There's a showcase tonight, isn't there?
Yeah, very late tonight as we record.
11 o'clock, yeah.
I don't see what could be released this year for me. And I've never actually had this before. I think the closest I would have come was God of War, but I've never seen a game that myself and my friends, and you guys basically, the people I work with and who are my friends, have universally felt the same about. And it seems really weird in April to be, and I just don't get why more people aren't talking about it. Because
this is going to be the crying shame, because I agree with you that there are. I mean, yeah, well, I think who knows, right? But there might be a game that surprises. But to have a game that is consistently
Breath of the Wild 2,
Horizon, Horizon is the.
I don't think Horizon could. Now, the only reason I say that is now, but think about what Horizon Forbidden West will be. It will be more Horizon. It will be new things. It will have a few things we're like, oh, wow, I didn't think about how they could have done more. And they've come up with a little thing. And it will, of course, look unreal.
I think it will sweep the awards.
I'm worried it will, because I want...
Best looking, best surprise, best audio. Game, best audio. Like, that isn't the thing we've covered enough.
No.
We keep talking about the stupid things, like the going through a vacuum. Going through the pipes of the vacuum, the sound of that.
The little
is so precise and specific.
The little hoovery things.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Sorry.
Yeah, and like you say, as you go, but like, I don't know. Like, we're not. It's going to start sounding like we're being paid to promote it. But I actually think that I almost think someone should be, because like the game's been out. I think I've seen the Steam store banner, like it's got scores on, because I think someone pointed out our score was on there. I've seen nothing.
I haven't seen a single person talking about it.
Do you know the thing I don't get about it? The thing that confuses me the most, and we will move on, I promise, but the thing that really confuses me about this game is EA take an awful lot of shit. They take a lot of stick for games like FIFA, for Star Wars games. They take an awful lot of shit, right? This is a game that is so consumer-friendly. Not only do you only need to buy one copy to play with your mate, it's actually only like 20, 30 quid. I think it's 24, I think I want to say. It's under £30. Why would you not be shouting about this as a company that's constantly barraged for being anti-consumer with your loot boxes? Why would you not literally put this up the top of a pedestal and say, no, look, see? Because they have been trying this with indie games. Like, what was that indie game? I think, well, I'll say last year. It might have been the year before now. I remember you went down to London and we did a vlog on it as well. It was a very powerful game. Yeah, it was. I think it was a game. A lady had written the game.
Sea of Solitude.
That's the one. So they have been doing this and the Unravel stuff. It should be the poster child for what a blockbuster AAA publisher can also do. Anyway, look, we should
play it.
Yeah.
Play it.
Yeah. What is that? It for you, Chris Hyde, or should we?
Yeah, that's the main two. Yeah.
Okay. I wonder, after telling us what he's played last week, after admitting he was playing it for a preview and is completely addicted to, Christopher White. That's a really weird, backward sentence of asking you what you've been playing. Sorry.
It's all right. So, yeah, I have been obsessed with the Elder Scrolls Online since starting up a couple of weeks ago. And I was given, and we were given the opportunity to preview the new chapter, Blackwood, which is coming out in June, so it's 2 months away. And we were kind of just given full hands-on, much time as we wanted to play this unfinished build of Blackwood and just roam free. So I'm playing on PS4, on Elder Scrolls Online, my own character. I've put a good chunk of time into that, but this was just one solid game on the PC where it's just confined to Blackwood. So essentially, it's difficult to it took me a while to kind of work out what Elder Scrolls Online is now. And it's essentially every year for the last 4 years, this will be the 5th year, they kind of have this year-long story. So last year it was the Dark Heart of Skyrim, which was set in Greymoor. And they released a dungeon, which is essentially where you can go and play with 3 other people or whatever, and like a dungeon, and then they released the chapter, which was Greymore, and then that's like there's like a quest line in there. There's a whole like you explore Western Skyrim, how it was 800 years ago or 1,000 years ago, whatever it was, and then they released another dungeon later, a few months later, and then they released the final kind of story. So that is how it works now. So with Blackwood, that is the new chapter. So they already released Flames of Ambition, which is kind of like a couple of dungeons and like the prologue quest, which I played a week or two ago. This is the chapter. So I got to play through the quest line. I got to explore the new areas. I got to see one of the kind of big feature from this, which is companions, and just kind of get my teeth stuck in. And it's with such a big game, it's kind of and like the world itself, Tamriel, is massive. Like because so many new DLC packs and these chapters and all this content has come to the game, you can go everywhere. It's humongous. But even still, these new locations feel different, and like there's kind of like a class system in Tamriel. Like certain places feel like downtrodden, whereas others are quite upper class, and like you kind of get that vibe wherever you go. And with Blackwood, like the sole focus on the story this year, it's called The Gates of Oblivion, and it focuses on a character. I'm trying to be careful because this has all been mentioned. A character called Mehrunes Dagon, which you may know from Oblivion, who this is kind of his first appearance in Tamriel in the kind of grand scheme of things, chronologically. And these portals are opening up all over Tamriel, and the story focuses on like his origins within this world. And the quest line, like there's always kind of like twists and turns in it, and like Blackwood feels like one of the biggest chapters yet. Like it's very ambitious with the plot. The quests, which I've always found are quite versatile. They don't kind of I don't really do you don't do fetch quests as such. It's quite expansive with the way it does it, but they've managed to incorporate this really interesting story across these different locations. But the kind of the coolest thing is the companions, which is what the kind of their flagpole is for this. And essentially there's two companions which you can choose, and you can go and visit them, and then a quest line starts, and once you finish that quest, you can then take them on your travels. And when we did a presentation of it before we got stuck in, one of the people involved in the game said it's an opportunity for those that don't have anyone to play with online to kind of play how it feels to have a companion, like a real life companion. So you know, you've got that, like you do occasionally get someone coming along on your quest like an NPC, but this is like you can call upon them whenever. And you can also like change their skill sets very much like you. You can change them to be like a damage dealer, a tank, or a healer. And you can mix and match the skills, and you've got basically all your skills within Elder Scrolls. So like your two-handed abilities, your ones that are given to your armor. I'm trying to work out if this was all in like Skyrim and Oblivion, because it probably was. But like, there's so many different skills you can incorporate into your companion, and new equipment, weapons. There's a rapport system where they can fall out with you, or they can get on really well with you. And if they kind of trust you more, it opens up like exclusive quests to do with them. So it's very, very smart in how that kind of works. And just all in all, so far, for saying it's not out for 2 months, it played very well, and it's very enjoyable. So like, I am now excited to be part of a year-long adventure, because I've now started it. I feel like it's the right time to kind of get stuck in. And I think, I mean, it's got quite a big player base. Like there's 16 million concurrent players. You know, there's so much to do.
60?
16.
I was going to say,
yeah.
I mean,
no,
that's
not 60.
Sorry, 16 million isn't a lot. You know,
16's tiny. Yeah,
16 is shit.
16
No, but
what?
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, but no, it's just, and it was when I first played it like 5 years ago. It was empty. There felt like there was nothing to do, nowhere to go. But now it's like the perfect, because there's so much content, and the way you access it is very, very user friendly. It lets you know where the stories take place, and you can go into the zones and find the quests by a click of a button, and like you can just jump straight in.
Yeah.
There is also you don't have to start them in a particular order. You could play Greymore, which came out last year, which I did, and then go back to the Morrowind chapter and finish that. And it's just this Blackwood. It's like I'm really looking forward to it. I think if players that have been playing it for a long time, longer than I have, will still be impressed with the scale of it and like what you can do in this companion system is very cool. And finally, there's like a change to what happens after level 50. So your main character, you level them up throughout, and it gets to level 50, and along the way you unlock new perks and all sorts, like as you do. And this champion point system, allows you to spend skill points a lot easier across 3 trees. So one's to do with like warfare, one's to do with fitness, one's to do with crafting, and you can just it's easier to distribute your abilities, but gives you a lot more to use them on. So they've kind of streamlined it, which is supposed to be helping the servers maintain, like managing the speed of the servers, as along with kind of making it more, if they could possibly get it any more kind of immersive. They've done that. So yeah. So it's a preview, so it's not the finished game. So I'm not reviewed it, but I have previewed it, and that's on the site. So go and check it out and have a read.
Okay.
But yeah, loving it. Yeah.
I do want to get stuck into it. It's our old friend time. I downloaded and started Final Fantasy 14 because I've heard so much. I'm a massive Final Fantasy fan, and I've heard so much about it for years upon years about how great it is now. Like there's that terrific no-clip documentary about it. I just had this hankering, and I played. It's got a lot to get through as you start it up. But within half an hour, I was like, I probably should stop now while I can stop. And I think TS. Well, what is it called now? Is it called The Elder Scrolls Online still or not?
It is called The Elder Scrolls Online,
as just Elder Scrolls Online.
Oh yeah, ESO. But
I think Bethesda
they
also
class it TESO.
Well, I know some Bethesda employees who actually call it ESO as well, so they dropped the T.
Makes sense. It's easier.
Sure.
But yeah,
it worries me. It worries me because that's the thing. Back in the day, right? But this is going to show my age a little bit. But you guys probably our audience watching live now or watching later. Back in the day, if you wanted to get involved with an MMO, you had to do this. You had to be at a PC. That's not the case anymore. Like they're all like when I started Final Fantasy today, like it says, "Do you want to map a controller?" And I'm like, "No, I don't. I've got a mouse and keyboard. Thank you very much, sir." And it made me realise,
I'm not scum.
Yeah, like how dare you? What do you think you offer? Like some dirty baubles at the start of the game that I would choose the disgusting of a controller. I haven't got anyone near my PC. Yeah, they're not made like that anymore, are they? They're fine. Like we'll come to it, but I was playing some Outriders on PC, and I realised, apart from the shooting, the aiming's always going to be better for me when games with the mouse. It is. That's just me. But like the skills, the way they're mapped, I'm like, but on a controller, I can just go, and here I have to press 1, 2. It's like, oh god, are games now being made for console? I don't know. Chris, talk about a game that is Is it on It's just PC, this game, right?
So far, yeah.
Yeah. So
Ashwalkers.
Ashwalkers. Let's have a look at it as you talk about it. Ready?
Yeah, okay.
Magic production skills. Okay.
So Ashwalkers is from the new studio of the co-creator of Life is Strange. Don't nod. And it's basically a survival sim with a heart. And as you'll be able to see on screen, like it's a point and click adventure where you go from like place to place across this kind of.
It's got some style, man.
It's beautiful.
It's got some real aesthetics going on there.
And you are controlling 4 characters, and each of the characters have a different trait. So Petra, she's kind of like the leader, and then you've got Singh, who is like the soldier guy. You've also got like an intellect and like a adventure explorer kind of character. And you've got the kind of like the life bars where your energy will drop, you'll get hungry, you'll get cold because there are some areas which like in the ice wastes. It's not just like this desert. So you'll find kind of like things of interest, which are kind of highlighted by like a light, and you click on them and you'll find meat, you'll find wood, and you'll find medikits. Simple stuff, very simple stuff. It's very easy to kind of, you can click on the camp icon at any time to rest. However, in doing so, you might be doing it in a dangerous area. And so when you do go to the camp, you'll see like a danger meter on the bottom, and that'll be a percentage. So if it's like 12%, you might find it easier to all of you rest up and have no one protected the camp. Or if it's kind of a little bit higher, maybe have someone protecting the camp while the others chat, sleep, or go and explore. So there's that kind of mechanic to it. But the thing that makes it kind of the one thing I love about it is the interactions with like the environment and the decisions that you make, and like the genuine moral dilemmas that these kind of games promise, or the kind of Telltale and Life is Strange, but they incorporate into a survival game. So there are times when you'll encounter something and each of your group has something to say, and one of them might be against doing it, one of them might not. It might be a case of trying to avoid a beast or an animal, or trying to hunt it, or trying to sneak around it. It might be a case of coming into contact with a band of survivors. And basically, all these decisions don't just affect the story, they affect the characters physically and mentally. So there's like a layer of managing their physical and mental health by picking the right option. So like in the review, I talk about a time where I was about to, there's like these beacons that you have to get to throughout your journey. And this child from this group, or this adolescent as it was called, spots you and sees what you're doing. And it's like, do you try and talk to them, or do you kill them? So I chose to kill them. And whilst the character who did it, like I was like, why have I done that? But he was like having a real like meltdown, because like he's the fighter, he's the kind of muscle, but even he struggled, and like certain decisions can affect their morale. So you really have to kind of manage your group, not just physically, but mentally.
You just, because like I feel like I heard what you said then.
It's a game though, isn't it?
He killed a child because he looked at him funny.
I just needed someone else to say.
Yeah.
I killed a child. Well, it was classed as an adolescent, so it could be a teenager.
Just because he looked at you.
Still a child. Someone's
no.
child. But the point,
I was trying to sneak into this camp.
And you killed a child.
Trying to sneak into this camp and get this information.
Yeah.
And I could, if I went about it the wrong way, we could have all been killed. It's dog eat dog out there, mate. It's like a volcanic wasteland. Shit's gone down.
Hang on. So you said you killed a child, but you didn't. In my head, you said in front of his parents. You didn't say that bit, did you?
No.
Okay. That's fine.
Well, you're adding extra bits. Yeah, while his parents watched.
Yeah.
No.
Sorry, that bit you didn't.
I have a question. I have a question about this. So, I guess, is there an ultimate penalty for wrong decisions? Like, can characters die?
You've got to live with it, mate. If you kill a child, you do have to live with it.
No, sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean like
in the game.
In the game.
So
not
the game,
yes.
The game itself lasts for 2 to 3 hours each playthrough. If you want to replay it, which I suggest you do, because every playthrough.
Sometimes you might choose not to kill a child.
Again, being that this is a podcast that people can hear back at the time, but I do feel like this one occasion, I need to read out the chat for this, where you have been called Kitty Killer White, which is a nickname that doesn't
be the first
stick.
Time.
Well,
first time. Kitty Killer White. You killed this kid, but on the second playthrough, it happened completely. Like I didn't even encounter this camp or this child. I went about it a different way.
But you've killed him again.
Would I?
Yeah. I think you know the answer to that.
If I needed to, yeah. If the same situation arose.
Yes, he would.
But like, by this point, I'd already...
I do declare, sir, I've done it and I would do it again.
I'd already had a character who nearly got ripped to pieces by a wolf.
Not by a child, though.
Shot in the face.
Not by that child. Wasn't the child...
Maybe it was. Maybe one of the people in the group earlier was this child. I don't know. We don't see faces, so could have been. But essentially, what I'm trying to say is, you can die.
Yeah.
Things can go wrong because obviously it'd be crap if everyone survived and it was all happy. There are I think there are 34 endings. So depending on how you progress.
So
there's multiple opportunities for playing through. But on top of the fact that I killed a kid and it was pretty heavy going, there's other stuff that happens in this game which is also pretty dark. So it's whether you want to replay it straight away or give it a few days and go back. But it's top. The caliber, you look at it, mate, the caliber is amazing.
Right. Watching the footage that you sent over for inclusion in this, listening to you talk about it, I'm like, this looks well up my street. Then you got into the kid killing, and I was like, I think I just.
But I almost want to play it. I almost want to play it to prove you can keep everyone alive without killing children.
I was wondering where you were going.
Oh yeah,
I thought you were going to say, I almost want to play it so I can kill this child.
No.
In my head, it was a kid, but it's an adolescent. That's what I'm saying. It could be any age below.
So you're
18.
Just to be clear,
I just picked it like an 8-year-old boy.
So just to be clear, if a child's under 13, over 13, the gloves are off.
Yeah, he's a teenager.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll let my two know.
Yeah.
They've passed the threshold. For a couple of years. Yeah, yours are all right. Chris is fine. Mine have gone past the threshold of safety. Years. That's fine. Okay.
Yeah. But no, Ashwalkers, give it a go. You get to kill a child.
Box quote.
Put that on the box quote. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, there's more to talk about next week in terms of games you've been playing, I believe.
Oh, yes.
There's a lot. I can't remember.
There's a lot.
I've been playing more Outriders. I'm becoming that guy now where I just played the one game. I will say, briefly, that I have started on PC, and I've started a new class. And that's still Ashwalkers. I'm just going to turn the game on. There we go. So I started a new class because I want to play with Chris Hyde, who hasn't started yet and is planning to. My God!
And now you've said that live. Keyboard. Now you've said that live. I definitely have to.
Yep. The Devastator is a class that's been getting a lot of bad stuff recently. Like Chris White, you play. I forgot what Trickster. Yeah, and I'm Pyro, and I kind of had a feeling that Chris would probably not pick Devastator. It's been getting a lot of bad stuff online because it's apparently if when you get to the end game of these games, apparently people literally kick a Devastator out when they see them because they're all timed. These events are timed when you get to the end game, and people are like, Devastator can't do. Now, and I've got to say, man, I've started playing this Devastator, and I'm sort of considering just almost ditching my Pyro, because
I was 50-50 when I went into being the Devastator or being the Trickster. So I love that kind of character, and it looked really cool. But I've still never played as it. So
it's the first skill you get is, I think the first skill you get for all of them are kind of similar. They just it's very similar to my Pyro. He does an under the ground thing that's it pulses them. But the second skill you get is basically armor. So it's almost like a shell that reduces all damage by 65%. So you literally become a tank. You can, you press this.
At the back.
Well, kinda. Yes, the tank at the back. Yeah. But the third skill I got just as because I've literally wanted to get past it. I will still say the same thing. I got through the opening hour in about 20 minutes because I was skipping everything. There's a couple of unskippable cutscenes which annoyed me, but I get it because most people will be playing them for the first time, and then when you play it the second time, you can jump straight to the story point. The first hour is still bad. It's bad. There's no way around it. I think they tried their best to make a story that would invest you enough that you could get to the good stuff within that hour. But I
suppose in the end it doesn't matter, does it? Because if you're spending 50, 60, 70 hours
surely you play more than an hour. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Surely you do. But I will say, it looks great on PC, as you'd expect. It looks great on Xbox Series X, and I'm sure it looks great on PS5. It loads quick on all the formats I've played it on. I am genuinely taken with this game in a way that is unexpected. I think it's got the best loot since Diablo. I really do. I think this game gets it really feels like there is build. There's one skill I think every class has where and you've definitely got it for your character. It's the one where it's like a bullet coating. Essentially, it makes your magazine and that does seem a little overpowered. I have now got with my Pyro character the ability that I can get 2 magazines before it needs to recharge. and I'm using not an SMG, an LMG. So I've got it's basically 200 rounds before I run that out. Now, of course, the enemies are scaling, and you can make it more difficult with the world tendency stuff. But it does feel slightly overpowered. But then, saying that, where we're at now, I've just done a boss fight where the enemy was kind of a pyro class, and I was like, oh God, have I ever? And I reckon that's probably because thinking about it, the first boss you fight is electricity based, but I don't think there's an electricity based class. So I think I just got unlucky, and it was one of, and I tell you what, and it's nothing like Dark Souls, by the way, nothing like Dark Souls this game, even though I did say world tendency just then. But this boss that begins with M, I was like, I can't beat this. But I actually was convinced at first. I was like, oh, this is one of those you're supposed to fail at. Because he's like a big name in the game. You're supposed to die here and he's going to kill you later. And no, he ain't. You're supposed to win that fight. And I realised after dying, I was like, oh, there's no cutscene. Oh, shit, sort of thing. And I took 4 or 5 more attempts. And I tell you, when I took him down, my God, it was that feeling. It was that Dark Souls feeling of like...
immense pleasure.
Yeah, immense pleasure. Yeah, and also when I killed him, I thought, oh no, is that the end of the game? Because I thought it was the main character. I was like, oh, this game's far bigger than I thought. And that, rather than me going, I got another 20 hours, whatever. Like I say, I've started another character, and I can't wait to play more. Genuinely brilliant game. We'll talk about that more next week, I'm sure, Chris, if you're going to start it. And I'm sure Chris White is looking forward to some more co-op. There's 3 of us here. Listener correspondence. If you've got any questions in the live chat, do feel free to start chucking them in there. We've got quite a few to get through here. I can answer this one very easily, and it comes via our Discord. I will also mention before we get into these, actually, earlier on I saw a comment about It Takes Two and the co-op aspect and that. I'm sure if you come to our Discord, which I will try and drop a link into the general area, you will find someone in our lovely, lovely community that wants to play through it with you, or will play a bit of it with you even via the friend pass. We do have a private Discord for our Patreon supporters, and you can find out more about that on patreon.com/GodIsAGeek. But that is a lovely community, and I should promote it more because I love those people. And listener correspondence is here, and G-Town Steve from that private Discord says, what was the last game that you 100% completed? Was it worth it? It Takes Two. I think I've.
Did you? Have you got the 100%, 1,000 game score on it?
By the time this video is live to everyone, in the future, I will. I've got 3 achievements left to get. I just need to get someone to sit down with me for probably 20 minutes, and I'll have 100% of that. But if not, I'll get my son to do it. I'll just force him.
Yeah.
Or I'll tell him Chris White's going to come round and.
Yeah.
Other than that, do you know what? I suppose it would be God of War. I 100%ed that, platinumed that. I feel like there was another one recently, but I can't think. I've got
a few recently. So the most recent one I 100%ed was Little Nightmares 2.
Oh, okay.
I played through that, and then that's quite an easy one because it's got chapter select after you finish. So then I went back and got the collectibles. That's a good game. I think Chris, you reviewed that one, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good game. So I wanted to go and find the collectibles there. Fairly easy to do. The one before that, which I got the platinum on, was the Control Ultimate Edition, which was incredible. So wow. I that's probably the one I wanted to give a shout out to because certainly, yeah, more enjoyable. I still need to go and do the DLC on that. What's that?
What was that? It's respect.
It's fist to the
universal sign, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm old now. That actually hurts. If I could hurt myself, that could be a rip gone.
But yeah, I still need to. I started the DLC. I need to go back and finish the DLC. But yeah, platinum for the main game. Love that game. So good on the Ultimate Edition on the PS5. So that's the one I wanted to give a shout because that's the most enjoyable of the two. But the most recent one was Little Nightmares.
I thought you would have said Immortals. You did.
Yeah, but that. Sorry, yeah, that. No, was
I mean
before,
you did get 100.
I did get 100. Yeah, it wasn't the most recent one, but yeah, no, Immortals was great as well. Love that one. Yeah, I just 100% all games because I'm so good.
Yeah,
I guess
so good at them.
Yeah.
Chris White, can you think of a recent one?
The Walking Dead season 1, probably.
That's not that recent, but
no, that was the one I've 100%ed.
But it was worth it.
No, I'm joking. I think it was a couple of months ago. I finally got around to 100% in The Last of Us Part 2. And I was incredibly satisfied with that because I spent ages doing that fucking guide for it.
Just to say, there is a collectibles guide for The Last of Us Part 2 on God is a Geek. You want to be like Chris.
So, yeah, you should bloody read it. But no, it's incredible game. We all know that. But like the collectibles and all that, it's fantastic as well. So you've
seen the rumors about The Last of Us remastered?
Yeah,
remade? I'll play it.
Yeah, I'll play it.
100%, I'll play it.
Chris isn't going to, but looks.
No, I'm sorry. I will. I was surprised to read the news and didn't know.
It's not technically news; it's rumors. It's
I'd like them to do Left Behind remaster because I've only played that through once.
I was looking at our video. I did a video of that way back when. My God, that doesn't look great. Like it is 2 generations old now. I'm with you.
Well, that was great.
Yeah, no, true. Also from Discord, Lyle Carr says, question for the pod: who's going to give Deadly Premonition 2 the second chance it deserves on the PC? Right now, he's put this in as a joke. No, I will. He's put that in as a jokey thing, right? I genuinely, I don't like the first game. The second one, I think, starts off really interesting. I think there's a really interesting story here and a really interesting idea of they mix up the gameplay with other elements I won't spoil. It ran like dog shit. Like, no, that's not fair on dog shit, actually. It ran really, really badly. And yeah, but the thing is, the PC port of the first game didn't run that great. I think it was locked. This is how mad. Like this almost feels deliberate. Like that game initially, I don't know if it still is, but that game initially on PC was locked at 720p. Like that.
I'm not convinced that game runs like arse because of the limitations of the Switch, right?
No.
But I mean, by all means, try it and then tell us we were wrong. But you can be the champion, the people's champion of that, and we'll just wait.
So it's a simple answer then. You've all said no, and I've said yes. So
I haven't said anything.
Oh, go on. Sorry, Chris. I thought you said no as well.
No, I won't play it.
No, I thought not. This question's on Twitter. @LlamaFluff42 says, with a high price and a low install base, although I'm not so sure about the low install base, is Returnal going to flop? I hope for their sake no, because there's a trailer recently was released for that which showed off the enemies and stuff, and I think that does more for that game than all the rest of the trailers combined, because they've tried to sell it initially as this really heavy story game, and everyone I think who has any idea about Housemarque are watching those trailers going, okay, not really what I go to them for. But now, have you guys seen the most recent trailer?
Mm-hmm.
It's a roguelike, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
It's a triple A.
It'll be fantastic. But it might do very much what It Takes Two has done and just not.
I feel like because it's PS5.
Yeah.
I feel like the nature of that means that people want PS5 exclusives to do well, and I think that means that they will get more people trying it than maybe something like It Takes Two. I feel.
There's a weird thing around Returnal in that a lot of people I've seen like on Reddit and stuff are saying like, this game should be for me, but there's something about it, and I think it's the art style. I think it's there's colour in there. There's a lot of colour, but it is. Do you know what was that game that when Xbox did their game showcase that time, it was all like tendrils and not the Medium, the other one that it was like a. I think it's a Bluebird. No, that is Bluebird Team.
No, because I know what you mean. Because I thought it was an Alien game when it first started.
That's the one. That's the one. Not Gorn. No, not Gorn.
No,
it doesn't matter.
Scorn. Is it Scorn?
Scorn.
Or Scorn.
It's kind of got that. Yeah, kind of nasty. Like everything's kind of slimy.
I love the look of it. Like I just feel like it's one of those. I should love it, but something about it. But like what? Yeah. It looks great. What about it? It's just like a niggle for no reason. Like, just get it. Support the PlayStation.
It's not PlayStation Plus, is it?
No.
Because I've seen a lot of people
that's the
go,
point.
I'm
it's like 70
that.
quid. That's the point that's making. It's 70 quid because it's like Demon Souls, isn't it?
I think as soon as that people get their hands on it, they're gonna.
I don't think it's gonna flop.
No, I don't think it will flop.
I don't think it's gonna set the world alight. Let's get to some live questions actually while we've got, because I'm going to lose them otherwise. Phil Tyndall in the chat says, how do you guys feel about limited editions or rare consoles, excluding the obvious PS5, which is limited for supply reasons? My favourite was the Panasonic Q based on the GameCube. I always wanted one of them, but they were always just that little bit too expensive.
Yeah,
they look so cool.
They look so nice, don't they? Yeah.
So my son's got the Gears 4 Xbox One X. 4 Gears 4. And I loved that at first, and I love because I love Gears, and like when you press the button, but the noise doesn't sound right to me. Like it's weird. Limited edition consoles. I think it was better when they would like. Was it PS2 when it was just like a different colours? Like you could get a purple one.
Yeah, like you get.
I prefer them to release them when the consoles come out.
That's
I'm not going to buy another one just for a fancy.
Nintendo Switch, in other words, like where they've just.
I'm exactly that.
The blue
a blue one.
I will only go me.
What's that?
It looks purple to me. That new Switch.
Oh no, I think it's. I see blue, but maybe it's like that blue, black, white gold dress thing. I'm the same as Chris. Like I tend to not buy them, but purely because they release them after I need them. Yeah. Like I'll get the new console hype and I buy it on launch, and unless one breaks, like and I have to replace it, then it does me. But if it did break, I need to get a replacement, and there was some special looking ones to do with a game, absolutely would consider buying one if I thought it looked all right. It's not I don't like them, it's just that like you say, they're not out on launch, are they? They're to do with a game that's kind of a year or two into the life of the console, so it all seems the bad timing. But but I'm like you, I kind of like, it was like back in the day when I used to go, we're launching this console and it's got 4 colours that you can choose from. It's like, right, awesome, let's look at that. I want a bright green N64, please.
I know it's a plea to sell more consoles, but I would like them to bring out a console where it's easy to just replace the casing, so that you can't just buy them.
So Sony had a problem with that, didn't they? With the PS5, because there was a company that was making the outer white,
the plates,
and they were making these different coloured versions, and Sony shut them down. To the point where like they were trying to be out there like going, oh no, we're talking to Sony, we're speaking to the legal sort of thing, but we will, and then they haven't. But people will do that, but you don't want that, do you? You want an official thing, don't you? Really, you want like
absolutely.
You don't want it to be
because people would buy them. Like that's what I don't get. Like surely it's quite simple to manufacture. I don't know the technical details, but you think you whack a Miles Morales one on there, people would lap that up. Or even on launch, a Demon's Souls and a Miles Morales. I'd want a Demon's Souls one. It looked amazing.
Really nice Death Stranding one that I wanted. Yeah. Like I'd buy the plates for them. No question.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like them, but I'd never buy them because, like someone in the chat says, I don't play them. It would be something like there's a GameCube behind me. There's I think, like I know one of our listeners and regular question, in fact, that this question didn't come from him, but Thomas McInnes, who we wished a happy birthday last week, he has multiple Switches that are unboxed because they're those, like the Animal Crossing one, and I have to say that's the one I regret not buying.
But
I don't think I'd play it if I had it.
Oh, no, I'd be in the box. You'd be like,
well, you can buy it in Animal Crossing.
Yeah, it's not the same.
So
sorry, mate. Where are we? Thomas K, just to reference a question we already had, he said, I almost 100%ed one of the Half-Life 2 episodes, missed one thing. The launch garden gnome into space achievement carried that swear word through half the game, even when it kept clipping, though. They did that in Left 4 Dead as well, didn't they? There was a gnome thing, and it was a brutal challenge, but I do remember that.
I have to say, I do hate, it's one of my pet peeves of where there's like trophies and things like that you can't go back and get. And if you miss it once, that's it. You're screwed. And especially if the game's long.
Better at that. But that's they are. Like with the ones that are that difficult, put me off trying to get all the other ones because I think if I can't get them all, I won't bother.
When games do complete this on hardcore for a trophy, it's like
you can't
a lot of that's gone.
A
lot of that's gone though. They don't do that as much.
Yeah, no.
Another question from @LlamaFluff42. Sony's taken some stick of late for closing of PS3 and Vita stores and some of Jim Ryan's remarks on game preservation. If you were put in charge of Sony tomorrow, what would you change, Chris White? I've added Chris White just so you go first. What would you change?
Wow. Release more games. That's what I do. I say, get Horizon out now. Spider-Man 3, Days Gone 2, Last of Us 9, whatever. Just fucking pipe them out. Give them Ratchet and Clank tomorrow. Now,
I would buy Bethesda somehow. Just buy them back. Offer Microsoft $1 trillion to buy them out. Whatever it's called now, Microsoft Vault or whatever they were going to call it. Now, I don't know. What would you do, Chris? Hyde?
I would strike a deal with Nintendo.
No.
And bring exclusive content.
Get Mario on the PlayStation.
Well, yeah, but bring PlayStation to Switch. I don't know. I just make that'd make some money. I'd make it happen.
With regards to the other part of the question around the backwards thing, I do think it's done a bit of damage. To be honest, I think some of it's a storm in the teacup, but I do also think that the stuff he says that you just think just be quiet a little bit. Like I do feel
it's not Don Matrick bad, but it's
but it's like there's clearly a market, isn't there, for that for older games, and I just feel like there's ways and means of saying our priorities are shifting.
Moaning about the older games are the same ones moaning about there being no new games out. Like you,
what
do people want anymore?
Different people want different things. I guess the point is you don't alienate. Like I say, there are ways and means to say we're focusing on bringing new experiences or whatever, rather than going, no one likes old games, and then the chunk of the market that go, actually, that's what I spend my time playing, you instantly alienate and piss off. And I think you just be like, Jim, just calm down a little bit, just give him a cuddle and just say, look, because maybe you don't.
Funny, people with the name Jim,
they can't be trusted. People with the name Jim
can't be trusted, and there's been multiple evidence.
Yeah, so I think I would probably say we need to kind of do a bit of damage limitation on what he's saying. But yeah, other than just release more games and don't make them 70 quid.
PlayStation Game Pass. Get rid of PS Now.
So there's a rumor.
There's a rumor of that they've got an equipment.
I think
because I took charge.
Yeah,
because I'm now head of Sony. That's why.
The thing is,
Play Pass.
The thing is, people aren't paying any attention to what PlayStation Now is becoming. Okay, and they are, in my opinion, very much testing the waters because they are bringing games to PlayStation Now. They are. They're not on the level that Xbox are, where it's like, and God of War's out, and it's out now on PlayStation Now. They are bringing games to PlayStation Now. But they know their business better than we do. They know what subscribers they've got, and they know that if they need to, they can. And this is what we said probably a year ago. People keep going, Sony needs to react. Why? You can't buy a PlayStation 5 right now.
And this is the point when people moan about the Nintendo tax and the fact that Nintendo games never decrease in value. That's because they don't need to, because we'll all buy it. And as much as we bemoan it, we'll still drop 50 quid for the next Mario game. And
if Nintendo said, right, Breath of the Wild 2, out November the 17th, £100, my God, it would be awful on social media. Every single one of the people moaning would buy it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they wouldn't, because most of them don't have to buy games, because... but whatever.
Yeah.
But it's... I will always say it, vote with your wallet. Vote with your wallet.
Yeah.
I find it a little bit over the top, the way people are talking about the PS3 and Vita. I'm sure there are definitely people still playing on PS3. I'm sure people still play their Vita. A lot of people use their Vitas for homebrew. But the fact that people are still complaining they can't buy a PS5 kind of suggests that probably the majority isn't bothered by it. Phil Tyndall, question for the podcast. This is from the live chat. Let's go to you first, Chris Hyde. What was the very first game you played and platform they're on that got you into gaming? He says his earliest would be 3D Monster Maze on the ZX81 back in the early 80s.
So So my first console was a ZX Spectrum 128K. So I know that. I'm now trying to think which cassette would have been the first one that went in it.
Of course, you had the posh one. Of course.
Oh yeah, I didn't have no shit 48K. I had the 128K. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know, but it would have probably been something like Dizzy or something like that, right? So I don't know if that. It probably wasn't, but that's probably what I can remember. That it's something like that. Yeah, Dizzy. The original Dizzy was definitely. I played that definitely before Treasure Island Dizzy, but yeah, I'm going to say the original Dizzy because that's the one I know would have been early. I love that game. Love that. Yeah,
mate.
Shame Dizzy Returns. Side point, but shame Dizzy Returns never became a thing. I kind of hoped it would, but it never did. Yeah, look, Dizzy. There we go.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Chris White, what was the first game and system for you?
So it was the same. It was the same Spectrum. However, there are very specific games I remember playing on that Spectrum. One was called Hades Nebula, which was like you move this spaceship around a map. There was a game called Repton, which was Google it. It's fucking amazing.
Really?
And then my dad had Platoon, and he put this kind of sheet over his keyboard for like the controls, and you could like it was dead easy to control the helicopter because you could just it's just very, very smart. And a game called Punch and Judy.
Oh, I played Punch and Judy. Yeah.
They were kind of the ones that and 1944, another one that's like Hades Nebula. But they were the kind of games on the Spectrum where I fell in love with games. And then for my own console, it was the NES. Mm-hmm. From there, it was a love story for the ages.
Mine would be, sadly, mine would be Commodore 64 and a game called Pod, POD, which was I think it was Proof of Destruction. And
not like the Christian metal band.
No. Or Pick of Destiny, the other POD. 1986 by the developer Magnetic Fields. Mastertronic were one of the few that were making games back then, and yeah, that was on the C64, and I think it did come to Spectrum as well. That is like one of my earliest memories. 1986. I think I would have been 4 or 5. And I remember my parents weren't well off. I've said this before, and I'm not going to start crying about it. But like they knew I was into that stuff, and I don't know if it was a case of my parents went without basically to get me stuff, and they put stuff on layaway. Like I think a lot of parents still do probably. And it talk about making a massive decision, a small decision, a massive thing of my life. Like to think of what it would become, my love for games. Pod, yeah. Proof. I'm only looking at a thing here that said it's Proof of Destruction. I don't know if that's true. It was called Pod. Although looking at that I don't recognise that box. I'm looking at box art, but I still can see it. Like if I close my eyes and think about Pod, I can still see it. It was just grids, and you had a little pod. Literally, it would move around on the lines of the grid, and it was kind of a shooter. Yeah, Pod. What a game! It's remarkable. The little things you do that have such massive ripples. ROTMM Rotham in the live chat. similar question, but with Sony trying to normalise $70 equals £70 in the UK market, are you as pissed off as me with Mass Effect Remastered being $60, 60 quid, and not the usual 55 quid? Chris White's nodding his head there.
I completely agree with him. I think it's slightly different if it was this brand new big first party exclusive. Even still, it's still a pricey, but I get it. Whereas they've all come out before, and I get it's like all remastered and whatnot, but it's a lot of money, and especially when a lot of people haven't got a PS5 and they're still trying to read the room.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because Mass Effect is not a new generation game. I was at the presentation and they were specifically asked, will you be optimizing it for Series X, S, PS5? And they're like, no, it'll run because it's backwards compatible. This is a PS4 game or an Xbox One.
You got quite emotional watching that, didn't you?
I was crying.
You started crying,
yeah.
didn't
you? Told me that,
we were all
the developers as well.
Yeah, the developer. No, we were all on camera crying in front of them. It was really.
Can I? There's been a few
moment.
just on Mass Effect because I've not played it and I know I'm a heathen, right? But like, there's been loads of like comparison videos doing the rounds around, and even from them themselves going, oh look, old, new, like slider videos.
Yeah, they showed us them in the presentation as well.
And I'm like, is it just me? Or one is in some respects, and certainly on character models, on environments, I think it's different. You can see more difference, but on character models, not too much difference. And in some respects, I actually prefer the originals. Like that's how I'm looking at it.
It's funny you say that, man, because when they first revealed it to us, like they hadn't shown the world, they were showing us these things, and there were the occasional ones where I was like, "Do you think that's better?" And it was mostly because it looks like they've changed the hue and saturation on a lot of them. And I don't know that that's improvement. That said, they also showed us stuff where like they have clearly clearly updated stuff, and also let's say they've redone some of the environments. But yeah, there are certain elements of it where I was a bit like, is that better? Because it
was almost
like
the
you've
point.
just turned the contrast up a little bit, and I'm not sure
exactly.
that was what it needed.
And I looked at it and went, oh no, it does look better. And then I looked at the bottom and went, oh no, that's the original. Whoops.
They've not done themselves
sliding.
any favours, because they just keep putting out these screenshots, and people are like, that's how it looked, and it's like, yeah, but that's Mass Effect 1, and then people go, oh, and it's like, well, why not tell people that in the first place? Mass Effect has to be treated with kid gloves. They cannot mess this up. They just cannot make this. They just cannot. They cannot mess this up. Who knows? Am I annoyed? I'm kind of permanently annoyed. So it's really hard to tell these days if I'm actually annoyed at that, or just because my shoes look slightly different this time I look down at them, or like if that sock's pulled up 1/4 inch too far. Games are expensive. I don't think they're going to get any cheaper, unfortunately. It shouldn't be £60 because that's not like Rotham says, that is not the usual price, and this is not a next-gen game. They were clear about that. If anyone wants to, say, oh no, it's on PS5. No, they specifically answered the question. Not to me. Someone else posed it. One of the crying ones, I think. But someone asked that specifically, is this going to be enhanced? And unless they've reneged on that and gone back, they said this is a PS4 and Xbox One game with nothing to talk about in terms of next.
Do you reckon they're trying to justify it by saying, oh, it's actually 3 games in one? Kind of thing.
And look, you could make that argument, but then be honest about it and say, look, lads, it's 3 games and it's all the DLC. And look, if you've never played it, it is good value for money. If you're buying it because you are being honest with yourself and you want it as your collection because you love those games like I do, but you're never really going to play them all and all the content again, it's not as much good value, is it? But I think it's the proof will be in the pudding. I think I need to see it in motion now, that game, or those games. At least the first one. Because it's been a very long time since I played that first game. Very long time. Back to Twitter, @LamaPluff42. We need another Road Rash. Why do you think vehicular combat has so rarely featured since those Mega Drive games? David Jaffe, probably his fault with Twisted Metal, isn't it?
I feel like there'd be, sadly, I feel like there'd be too many people up in arms about people punching each other on motorbikes, wouldn't there?
Yeah.
Would it be fun? Would it be fun? Now,
to punch people on motorbikes?
No. I mean, Chris talked about killing kids. Let's not beat around the bush here.
I didn't talk about it.
Sorry,
bring it up out of conversation out of the blue, did I?
But would you genuinely get excited about playing a modern version of Road Rash? Think about how simple. Really,
I'd quite enjoy it. Yeah.
I think would I? Okay, I think.
But then they did release Road Rash.
I would, yes, if it was part of a remastered collection of those types of games. If it was just, would I be investing in a remake of Road Rash? No. But because I think I'd play it for 5 minutes and go, that was fun, and then I wouldn't buy it again. But if it was part of a collection, I probably would. But that's the honest truth.
Just to go back a little bit into again from the live chat, Thomas K says he is still playing his PS3. He's just finished Remember Me on it a few weeks ago, and now on Heavy Rain. I'd be intrigued, Thomas. Is that a choice? Do you mean you are not on a PS4 as well, and you just are at PS3? I'd be intrigued if you could let us know in the chat. Let's move away from games to a different question. The Chomp, underrated gem or last resort filling stealer? Don't quite get the stealer bit.
If it's soft, then it's 100% one of my favourites of a collection box. I wouldn't buy them. However, they are good value for money for what you get. Just leave them at the fridge.
Now or 20p? They were 10.
They're like 15 or something now, aren't they? Well, I like a chomp.
I'm not going into newsagents and buying a chomp.
No, I would never buy one. No. There are better chocolate bars than a chomp. Let's be really clear on that. And if I'm looking for a chocolate bar, I'm going for a toffee crisp or a boost or something. We've had that conversation. Right?
We've done
this, yeah. But the chomp, like you say, it's going to be a selection box at Christmas jobby, isn't it? That's what we're talking about. But, I get it, and I'm like, it's all right. I don't go, oh, it's the chomp. I'm like, I like a chomp, and it's quite. I'm happy when I'm eating it. Let's say that.
Good.
It's better than fudge.
I've no.
I know
fudge. Fudge is good, but I go for chomp over fudge.
Yeah, same.
Fudge brings back memories, nasty things we used to sing when we were a kid, so we won't go down that one. Thomas, by the way, says I've both PS3 and 4, but PS3 is what I own those games on, backlog, etc. Good to hear people doing that. 2 questions to go as you hear this. So if you're watching live, if you've got any other questions, you need to get them in pretty quickly. 2 questions to go. Do you think the PS5 and Xbox Series X should have been delayed given the issues caused by the pandemic, or are you happy enough with the initial library and backwards compatibility?
So I get the argument why it could have been delayed. And there was certainly issues on launch around, I think we all had issues with like crashing and things like that at launch, and there's been updates since then. But I think I reflect on it and go, I'm not sitting there twiddling my thumbs with nothing to play. So in that sense, I'm not thinking, you should have released this later because I could still be playing my PS4 games. I'm playing new stuff that is coming out on those new consoles. So therefore, if anything, I'm just playing a larger percentage of the stuff that's coming out rather than, getting to 20% of it and missing the other 80 because just so much comes out in a normal year across all the consoles. So in that sense, no, but I do kind of get it. There probably would have been a more successful launch if it had been delayed in that sense. Might be able to get one on launch if it had been delayed, maybe. But
you wouldn't because
probably with scalpers. But
that's a problem. Like nowadays, technology, it's like just forget it. Like the graphics card thing, still bullshit. Still annoys me. Yeah. Everything announced now. Let's put it this way, right? I'm ready for Returnal. I'm absolutely ready for Returnal. Because it's a new PlayStation 5 game, and I'm hoping, because at one point I was the guy on a podcast saying, if they're just going to make a PS4 and it's just going to games are going to look better, then I'm not bothered. At some point you have to accept that is kind of what happens. Like games do look better. There is other things, that make new consoles worthwhile, and like Sony have just pushed that update, which they've added the cold storage option for PS5 games, which that sort of stuff, and there's other new little bits in there. I am ready for a new game.
Flip an home button though, don't you, to turn your PlayStation
I'm
off.
surprised that they must have had some feedback over that, but I will. I'm ready for Returnal. I will say that I don't regret having a PS5 or an Xbox. I am absolutely ready for a new. I'm ready for Ratchet and Clank more than anything. And I feel like that game's done. And I in my head, I think that they are delaying it until they can get a few more consoles out there. But I don't know. I mean, Chris, White, how do you feel?
Speaking of someone who's got one, knowing what I know now, I could have waited. But on the same time, like when the PS4 was I was getting to the end of its lifespan, it's so noticeable now how slow that console was. And like, if there's an update, not only do you have to download the update, but then you've also got the copying system, which then takes even longer.
That was less of a problem, but seems to have started up again. But we should say one of the features they just added, by the way, because you mentioned that, is with this new firmware, is you can background download updates. You can preload updates. So before they are, which is a really peculiar thing, because it almost makes it sound like you can download it in advance before it's past submission, unless it's a case of it's past cert, but the update's coming out. Like it's a big update for a service game. But that's a cool, and it does say if developers want to. So it's But they're getting there.
I don't think people are missing out by not owning one right now.
They are both fantastic consoles. You don't need one.
No.
Like thinking of games that we are reviewing currently. They're PS4 games, they're Xbox games, because Outriders is on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. It's PS4 as well. Like it will run better and it will look better.
It takes two.
It takes two.
Near Replicant.
Yep.
That'll be on PS4 and Xbox
PS4.
One.
That's not a native game. So it's a peculiar situation, because I think people are almost forgetting that, like, Nier's coming out. Nier's not a next gen game. Like, and that's not breaking any embargo. It's literally not a next gen game. Returnal is. Returnal's the first this year? No, the medium. I saw it in my library the other day of things I could download, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, that came out.
How?
Yeah, that was this year. Last question from the pre-podcast questions, I guess. If you could bring any movie license to a brand new game, what would it be and why? Any movie license.
See, I've thought about this, and I literally can't think of anything. I was coming up with one, and then thinking, oh, they made a really shit version. Like I was going with John Wick, but they made John Wick Hex, which wasn't bad, but it's already been done.
It's been done. Yeah.
So the only thing I thought of was Forrest Gump by Annapurna.
Okay.
But I just can't. Like maybe
I mean, Indiana Jones, but Bethesda are making that. So
yeah. I struggled because I kept thinking of either films or series of films that I liked, and I'm like, they're already games out that exist. So I was
Castlevania anime video game. They've not done that, and that'd be cool.
And they definitely aren't going
to. No.
I mean, it's a difficult one. We might have to come back to that.
Yeah, I did struggle.
Just to say thank you very much to Philip Tyndall, who dropped £3 there. Is that euros or pounds? I can't see. In the super chat. Thank you very much.
Cheers,
just a small thanks for the pod crew for entertaining us weekly. You're more than welcome. Thank you ever so much for your support. Last question comes from Rotham in the live chat. Boxers, briefs, or commando? Now, the question is there, what's he talking about? Like, in bed, generally?
I mean, is it different for different... I mean, if it's different for different times of day, then you should elaborate. For me, the answer is boxers.
Yeah.
All the time.
Oh.
Well, okay, if it's like ridiculously warm, like as a heat wave, then free and easy. But like commando, but like...
Oh, I'd never go free and easy.
No, mate.
Oh no, in bed. Sorry, in bed. In bed.
I don't do that anymore because once...
Sorry.
That story looked like one you wanted to tell and then thought better of.
No, I think because you've assumed that I go commando like in a pair of shorts during the day, and I don't do that. It's just in bed.
But you're the one who said it needs to be clarified. So let's just split this question into two. Part one, boxers, briefs, or commando during your everyday wear?
Boxers.
Boxers, me too. Okay, that's done. We can shelf that now. That's not the interesting part, clearly. Boxers, briefs. Do you sleep naked is the question, isn't it? Let's just be honest. That's what he's asking. Do you sleep naked?
Not unless it's really hot.
Not after an embarrassing conversation, I don't. Where my daughter told me the next day that she's coming to see me one morning. The duvet was off. I can't face that embarrassment.
Maybe actually now my daughter does come into the bedroom in the morning. I probably won't anymore. Yeah, for that reason.
Yeah,
haven't had that conversation yet, but yeah, maybe moving forward I won't.
Yeah.
So boxers.
Yeah, every time, all the time. Apart from when I'm in the bath or the shower.
I don't. You see, well, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I don't just wear boxers in the shower.
I thought you were doing an Arrested Development there, like you were never nude or something. Like you never. So it's wow. So I'm the only one in bed then that's just like
Starkers.
Yeah,
just fucking. Man. Absolutely, man.
Yeah,
like.
wow.
I'm sorry. Like, listen, I'm not being funny, but we've had this conversation, and I'll get up in the morning and walk to I'll walk to past the window and everything with it all out, and my wife's gone, oh God, what? Aren't you afraid someone will look in and see us? Like, it's my fucking house. It's their problem, not mine. If they're like, what's it there? Oh, penis. It's like, it's my house, mate. What are you gonna do? Complain about me indecently exposing myself in my own private dwelling? Sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Like, and the same goes for the kids. Quite honestly, I'm sorry. Like, if my, I mean, it's maybe different because you said daughter. But if my son was like, "Oh, Daddy, I saw your bum hole," it's like, sorry, mate. You know. Also, why are you speaking like that? You're 16. It's a really, really weird way to talk. Like, I don't know what to tell you. But like, you know, I sorry, but like, my house, my rules. Like, if you ever come and stay with me, lads.
I was going to say, if we ever go and stay at Adam's house, he's going to be wandering around with it out, potentially slapping it in your face. So,
I have a pair of pajamas that if we have people to stay over.
When guests come over.
Yeah, because you just never know, do you? That is, my missus will always say things like, yeah, but what if there's a fire in the night? It's like, well, I don't think that's the biggest problem I've got there now. If the fireman's going, oh, small charge there, mate. It's like, yeah, but my house is on fire, so I'm not all that. I mean, fucking, I had pubes there. They've all burnt off. I don't know what to tell you. Rotham says, I haven't worn out in bed since I was a kid. That's all I'll say to that. And for those listening, it's just a big thumbs up. It's a big thumbs up right there for you, Darren. And that's a podcast. Thank you very much for listening to that. If you've just tuned in, we normally talk about games. This is just the end section where it got a bit...
Talk about wangs!
It got a bit genitally. do go to our Patreon, patreon.com/GodIsAGeek. Have a look on there, and you can see that we have a private Discord. Like I say, there'll definitely be someone in there who will play It Takes Two with you. I'm absolutely certain that they're such a lovely, lovely bunch. Also, make sure you go to the website. I never do this, and I really must. As my watch goes off, my missus has just texted me saying, how long? And that is not a question you expect to see during a podcast. But yes, go to the website, because on the website, godisageek.com, there is currently a competition running. Whether you're listening to this live or watching it live, or when it goes live on a Monday, it should be there all the way through next week, or this week if you're listening after it goes live, to win a Nintendo Switch and a copy of a game called Relicta. I can't even speak now. And there's 5 runners-up copies of that game, all digital. Go and have a look. Really easy. To be honest with you, if you're watching this, you've almost already entered, because one of the criteria is subscribe to our channel. So you're already on the way to winning a Switch. Go do it. Thank you to Chris and Chris.
Thank you, mate.
I'll just belch into the mic there. That was all a bit professional. I've been holding it in for about an hour now, so just wind. Thank you very much for watching, listening, supporting. Means the world to us. Thank you ever so much, and we will see you next week, or whenever you choose to listen. Bye-bye for now. Wave at the camera, everybody.